Shalom, royal daughter of Yah. That is shalom, which is much better than hey girl, hey. But shalom and hey girl, hey. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Alicia by Faith. I'm Alicia Victoria. Let's get started. This video is about praying and praying specifically for your prodigal spouse if he is a firstborn, an only born, and of course male, a son, as I'm using he. So this is for the royal daughters of Yah who are believing for their Yah ordained marriage promise. You are on the Yah ordained marriage promise journey, and your prodigal spouse is a firstborn son, an only son specifically. And this is a prayer point I wanted to highlight and bring up and emphasize because there can be many prayer points that one can have when praying for a prodigal spouse, praying against certain spirits, of course, including being a prodigal, praying against that prodigal spirit, that running man spirits, maybe praying against the spirit of anger, lust, pride. There could be prayer points regarding the healing of your prodigal spouse. So praying against trauma they may have experienced, things in their past, things that happened to them in their childhood, things that have happened that that have affected them for who they are currently being, how they're being affected and living out as a prodigal. There can be prayer points related to things like praying against the counterfeit or spiritual warfare or against witchcraft. And there can be prayer points regarding, praying for that marriage promise and the emotional growth of you and your prodigal spouse. There's so many different prayer points one could look at and focus on, but one that I don't see discussed often and seems to be overlooked is praying for your prodigal spouse based on their position and who they are, and that is birth-wise, because it matters. It matters oh so very much. And many royal daughters of Yah are in Yah ordained marriage promise journey to firstborn sons, firstborn son prodigals, and it matters so much to pray for them in particular in this area. So I want to give just a quick scriptural insight references so you understand further, or if you're already tracking with me, why it's important to pray for your prodigal spouse if they're firstborn. And I want to start with scriptural examples looking at the firstborns. Now, of course, this does not apply to every single firstborn that ever existed in the scriptures. It also doesn't mean if your prodigal spouse isn't a firstborn or only son that you don't need to pray for them for the position that they are in their birth order. But this video is specifically for those with prodigal spouses who are firstborn sons or only sons, because you will see that the warfare against the firstborn, with a numerous amount of examples in scripture, is very real. The enemy very much comes against them, and you want to be praying now. You already want to get in the habit of praying from the position of the firstborn, because you are marrying a certain type of person. This is what's going to be coming specifically with their calling, their mission, their assignment, and being a firstborn son is a key, crucial, and important aspect of that. So let's look at the scriptures. Firstborns in the scriptures. Some have even called it the, quote, failure of the firstborns, because it has been so many in scriptures that the enemy has come against, and that their examples show that they either failed, they did not succeed, they did not obey Yah, they went their own way, they came under serious attack. And of course, starting with the very first man, Adam, who they call Adam, he was a type of firstborn, the firstborn of humanity and humankind. We could even say Eve was a type of firstborn taken from Adam. And we know with both Adam and Eve, a part of their story and what took place, and quote, the failure of the firstborn. Continuing with Cain, their firstborn son. Another example. You can continue throughout the Old Testament, but if you look at Jacob versus Esau, Esau's story. If you look at the story of Leah versus Rachel, Leah's story. If you look at Jacob's first son, Reuben, and how he was even cursed in a sense by his father, or did not receive the inheritance blessing. So we have Adam, we have Eve, we have Cain, we have Esau, we have, even with Father Abraham, Ishmael, who was technically the firstborn son, but he was not the child of promise. And so you have firstborn after firstborn after firstborn. You have Reuben, you have Dinah, who was Jacob's daughter. If you read about her story, like the first daughter shared about in scripture from the 12 tribes of Israel. And continuing on in scripture with the firstborns, you have let's see, I said Dinah, you have King Saul as the first type of prototype and king. And this can also apply to those in the family who are being the first to do something. So if your prodigal spouse is going to be kind of the first one to walk in the things of Yah in their family, you want to be praying these prayer points and praying for them as a firstborn or a first to do things as well. So we have King Saul, and his story is one where he was in disobedience to Yah and did not do what he was supposed to do as the first king of Israel. We see with continuing examples with the children of Israel when they were in Egyptian captivity. There was the mandate against the firstborn, killing all firstborn males under 2. That's why one of the judgments for Pharaoh later on was the death of his firstborn and the death of the Egyptian firstborns, because they came after the firstborn males of Israel. So that's again where the firstborns came under a mass attack by the enemy. In the scriptures, you have the firstborn again with the priest Aaron and his sons. You have the firstborn and the sons for the priest Eli and what happened in their story. You have the example of Samuel and his sons and how they were seen by the people. You have the example of Samson, the only and firstborn son and one of the judges of Israel, and as an example again of, quote, failure of the firstborn. So over and over in scripture, there's numerous examples. Firstborn, quote, failure. Firstborn, quote, defeat. Firstborns being disinherited or not inheriting their birthright either by their own means or their own ways in choosing, or, even in an example like Joseph of the Old Testament and his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, when Jacob, their grandfather, was giving the blessing, he gave the blessing more to the younger over the older. And Joseph even tried to correct this and switch his father's hands to say, no, this is the firstborn, give him the blessing. And Jacob was like, no, this is the order of how it's going to go. So again, another case where the firstborn is not, quote, some may say getting what was supposed to be theirs, or it's not going directly to them, or etc. As I've talked about, failure, defeat, disinherited, not receiving the inheritance, their disobedience, not being able to be a successful first type in whatever they do. And so I could go on and on in the scriptures because there are numerous examples. If you just sat down and looked at all the firstborns in the scriptures and looked what were their narratives, stories, outcomes, did they get their inheritance? Were they able to lead well? Were they obedient to Yah? Were they pleasing to him? And you will see a certain type of pattern. And this continues even into the New Testament. Now, of course, we know Messiah, he was a firstborn son. And when he was coming into the earth, we again saw that attack on the firstborn where the enemy came against all the Israelite Hebrew boys in the land that he could, to have them put to death if they were under age year 2 and younger and male. So that would have again been like in Egypt in the Old Testament, coming against specifically the firstborn. And of course we know the enemy was trying to attack to also try to stop prophecy. But again, this was coming against the firstborn and the males and the males. And so all of this is to say, if you are going to be aware of these things and that you know that you are marrying a firstborn, an only son, one that will be the first of a type of a something in their family and their lives. This is a prayer point you need to start including, because this is going to be a direct influence on the type of specific mission, assignment, and calling that he has on his life. And you don't want to be unawares. We want to be virtuous, Chayil women of YAH. And if you don't know what a Chayil woman is, see the description box of this video. But we want to be women of knowledge with awareness, not ignorant of the devil and his schemes, but more importantly, not ignorant of the position that YAH has given our husbands of YAH. And so it's a reason that he's called them into positions as firstborns, sons, or only firstborn sons, or the first of something. And there is a warfare that comes with being the first, the only, and the firstborn son. So what I'm going to do to just give more insight about this, encourage you as you start praying in this area, is link some different videos where there's different prayer points, additional shorter teachings on the firstborns and firstborn sons, and even for yourself, if you are a firstborn daughter marrying a firstborn son, so that you know you can start praying from a certain mindset, position, and awareness, not only for yourself, not only for your prodigal spouse, but for what YAH has for both of you, including YAH willing, if it's in his plans for you, if you all have a firstborn. So you will already be aware, already be in a certain level of knowing and a certain level of readiness. So until next time, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and from glory to glory, grace to grace, strength to strength, shalom.